Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu. Show on the programme tonight. Himachal Pradesh has not witnessed such widespread heavy rains in the past 50 years. The state has suffered a loss of about 3,000 crores this monsoon season so far, is what the Chief Minister says. On the show tonight, our reports track the flood devastation and a special discussion on why it's happening. Also on the programme tonight, a huge day for India. This coming Friday, India launches the Chandrayaan-3 mission to the moon. The goal is to get it right this time, placing an Indian lander on the surface of the moon and rolling out an Indian rover. We have a splendid panel on the show as my colleague Pallav Bagla and I do a deep dive into this awesome mission. But first, let's go straight across to our correspondents, Ankit Tyagi, who joins me from the Mandi district of Himachal Pradesh, and Vedanta Agarwal joins me from the Devastation region of Punjab. Ankit, to you first. What's the immediate situation around you?
Well, there has been little mercy, on Himachal Pradesh, Vishnu. The last couple of hours, there hasn't been any rainfall. But when the rain stops, the real danger then, of course, are the landslides. The main highway, the 4-lane highway to Manali, has been blocked, has been broken, and many bridges on that highway have been washed off. So that highway is closed. The old route and the national highway, the old national highway, is functional right now, but that is taking longer because of the landslides which we have seen in many places. At this moment, the problem is that till Mandi at least, you can still reach by road. From Mandi to Kullu, the road, it was open for about half an hour or so. Rains in the evening made sure that it was shut down again. The administration is trying to reopen that. Towards Manali, the main highway at many places has completely been washed off, and that is where a few tourists are expected to be also stuck. Now, the administration, what they are trying to do, they are trying to ensure that at least the people, there should not be more fatalities. So that's the focus. But as I speak at this moment, there are few villages which are completely cut off. The administration and the rescue teams have not been able to reach those villages, so we yet don't know the entire devastation of the rains which have taken place in the state of Himachal Pradesh. Many are comparing it to 2013 Uttarakhand floods. Thankfully, in terms of number of casualties, the number is not as high as it was in Uttarakhand. But at this moment, Himachal Pradesh till Thursday, till Tuesday 3 p.m. is facing a very grim prediction of very heavy to heavy rainfall, and people are bracing for the worst.
Vedanta, give us the situation in Punjab.
Well, Vishnu, it's unprecedented indeed. I'm reporting from one of the worst affected areas in Punjab, the Dera Bassi. It's part of the Tri-City. And let me show you how residential complexes are completely inundated. And if I can ask my camera person to follow me and show you how even after 7 to 8 hours, there's still knee-deep water here. And the entire residential complex is inundated. For the entire day, we saw, massive operations by the NDRF. There were state rescue teams, central rescue teams present on the ground. The Indian Army was also on alert. That's what the Chief Minister also said. And you can see, there's knee-deep water still, and vehicles are submerged completely. In fact, in the past 52 hours, almost 50 vehicles were completely washed away in just this Dera Bassi area. And the kind of rescue operations that are on, Vishnu, there's JCBs positioned here to make sure that those residents who are trapped in these residential complexes without electricity, without food, without water supply, there's some sort of relief that's provided to them. In fact, if I can also show you, several NGOs and have also pitched in to provide food, etc. To all those trapped residents. Let me quickly get in a sense from some people here. पिछले 50 घंटे बहुत मुश्किल रहे हैं आप लोगों के लिए. कोई फूड सप्लाई नहीं. फूड आप लोगों ने काफ़ी प्रोवाइड किया. देयर इज नो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी.
एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ने प्रोवाइड किया, गुरुद्वारों ने प्रोवाइड किया, लंगर लगाए यहाँ पे फूड का और पानी का. हमें कोई शॉर्टेज.
कितने लोग अभी ट्रैप्ड हैं आपकी सोसाइटी में?
सर ऐसे
जी
प्रेसिडेंट साहब आ गए.
जी आप बताइए सर, ही इज द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर सोसाइटी. कितने लोग ट्रैप्ड हैं अभी भी इस सोसाइटी में?
अभी भी कम से कम 2 से 2,500
जी लोग अभी भी आप विदाउट फूड विदाउट
नहीं, विदाउट फूड नहीं है कोई भी. हाँ. फूड की प्रॉपर अपने पास है अवेलेबिलिटी.
जी.
और पानी की भी अवेलेबिलिटी है,
हाँ।
मेडिसिन भी है
जी, सब आप लोग प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, so there is no water supply actually, but these people are providing water bottles and food etc. और ये बताइए, हमने देखा आज कि छोटे बच्चे, बुजुर्ग लोग घरों में ट्रैप्ड हैं, उनको किस तरीके से, आज मेडिकल इमरजेंसी हो गई थी तो एनडीआरएफ ने रेस्क्यू किया?
जी। हाँ, उनकी पूरी सपोर्ट रही है हमें, बट ये है कि थोड़ा सा बहुत ज़्यादा टाइम देते
जी,
तो और बढ़िया से हो जाता वो काम।
और मेडिकल इमरजेंसीज भी थी कहीं, एक दो आज?
मेडिकल इमरजेंसी इतनी कोई सीरियस नहीं थी, बट वो सीरियस नहीं था इतना, लेकिन हमने वो रेस्क्यू हो गए थे टाइम से
जी।
तो अभी सारी सिचुएशन जो है वो ठीक है।
And some relief, of course, also Vishnu, given the fact that it's not rained in the past couple of hours at least. So, well, some relief is expected, but of course, the big question is, why is our civic infrastructure not prepared to tackle, with monsoon? Year after year, we see similar situations and unprecedented scenes here, particularly in the hill states and also in Punjab and Haryana.
All right, Vedant, come back to you in a moment. Ankit, let me go across to you. I think one of the big concerns now is transportation. The fact that bridges have been destroyed, roads have been destroyed as well. That's something that's going to take a long time to fix.
Absolutely, but largely, Vishnu, many of these bridges which have been destroyed are the link bridges between the bank to various villages. As far as the main highway is concerned, the highway at many places have been washed off, because when you go from Kulu onwards, the river Beas, it's almost on the bank of the river that these highways have been made. So on many places, the 4-lane newly constructed highway, which was supposed to reduce the travel time from the plains to Manali, that has been washed off at many places. As far as those bridges are concerned, the connectivity in few of the villages now is going to be a challenge as far as the administration goes. Not many trucks beyond Bilaspur are plying at this moment. Nobody is in fact even allowed or even attempting to go towards Manali, the heavy vehicles. So once the administration is saying if the rain subsides, and at least if they get 24 hours, they would be in a situation to in fact make sure that there is frequent smooth traffic between Chandigarh, on the main highway between Chandigarh and Manali. That, Vishnu, is going to bring a lot of relief to many tourists, those who have also been stuck. A word of caution from the Chief Minister and from others as well. If it is not absolutely necessary, avoid coming to the hills to Himachal Pradesh at this moment.
All right, Ankit, take care, and thank you and Vedanta very much for bringing us those reports. Well, joining us now, R.S. Bali, he's of the rank of a cabinet minister in the Himachal Pradesh government, chairperson of the tourism department of Himachal Pradesh. Mr. Bali, thank you very much for joining us. Our big concern obviously is loss of life and the condition of people. What can you tell us about people in the affected areas of Himachal Pradesh?
See, it is a big, natural calamity. And somewhere, everybody is affected here, and especially when it is hills. And, there are things which are beyond you. The only thing which one can do is to have the best possible rescue operation, for which the government and everybody are working together. The NDRF, the state disaster management team, they are day and night working. The police jawans are, rescuing the people. We've got 27 people who have, been affected, they have died, and all of them are the local residents. There's no tourist as of now who's, there's a reporting that somebody has died out of the tourist. But the local residents are affected, and majorly because they're in the villages which are affected the most. And some have died because of the landslide. There's some houses which have collapsed, but the tourists we are trying to rescue, and the food and other things we are trying to provide. So everything is, the government and the Jawans especially, they are doing whatever possible they can do. And natural calamity, as you can see, the screens are showing that it's quite a dangerous position whenever there is such rainfall.
Mr. Bali, what's the weather forecast?
Pardon?
What is the weather forecast?
See, the weather forecast, we are having an alert. There is an orange and yellow alert, and then all the deputy commissioners are giving alert. We see some of the areas would have less rainfalls. We see that some of the areas still would have major rainfalls. And when it is about, heavy rains in hilly states, one should avoid traveling. And it is always like this when it is hilly, so there are few things which are beyond anybody's control. But things are still looking little under control, that we can at least, our people are going, are rescuing the people without helicopters, because you are not being able to take the helicopters to the affected places because of heavy air pressures. So there's still the Jawans and NDRF, the National Disaster Team, and the State Disaster Team, and the battalions. They all are working together, physically going there and rescuing people.
Sure. I'm also joined by R.R. Rashmi, Distinguished Fellow at the Energy Research Institute, and Brigadier Vinod Datta, who's a former secretary looking at disaster management. R.R. Rashmi, let me come to you next. Is this potentially a result of just two weather patterns clashing at the wrong time, like what we've seen in the past during Kedarnath? Is there a link to climate change? And is a lot of the devastation that we see on the ground because of the way we construct in our hilly areas?
You see, it's not completely a natural phenomenon. There are, obviously, we can't do anything about the extreme weather events which are taking place as a result of a natural phenomenon. But I think the part of the problem lies in the fact that the intensity and the vulnerability of the communities has got intensified, because the way we have gone about constructing our habitations and allowing constructions in the flood plains of the rivers. We have seen the disaster of 2013 in Kedarnath, which was also something very similar, where the disasters struck the settlements because the constructions had been allowed in the floodplains of the river. Similar situation is now occurring in Himachal Pradesh because the exposure of the communities to the hazards, the natural hazards, is increasing, is getting intensified, because we are not following any standards. We are allowing all the norms to be violated when constructions are being allowed. And obviously, in the long term, it is linked with climate change. The extreme weather events, their intensity and frequency is increasing. But we can't do anything about them in the short term. But we can certainly, what we can do in the short term is to reduce the way, mitigate the way in which we are planning our habitations, allowing constructions and improving the standards of constructions, making them climate resilient when we allow these things to happen.
Brigadier Datta, would you agree that this is just something that happens across our hilly areas? Next to the river, we have construction in areas where homes should not be built up at all. And then people just lose their lives whenever there's flooding or heavy rainfall, and nothing seems to change.
Yeah, I agree with you, Vishnu, because you see the way the urban planning is being done, the overuse or over-exploitation of the land potential has been totally, kept at this stake. If you see the hilly areas, generally, there are not very many places. So wherever you get, even a foothold, you start making a building. So that is one of the reasons. More so, the hills are vulnerable. And if you see, like you take the case of Shimla, I had done a study which said that the Shimla city was made for only 80,000 people. The way things have mushroomed. So now it is totally the bylaws and all these things have been totally violated. Secondly, the requirement of the community has been reduced to zero. Now, because of the ill practices or because of the lackadaisical attitude on part of governance, the bylaws, the framework, the advisories are not being adhered to. So, which is compounded by the climate change which is taking place. And now you see what Himachal is going through. And in hilly areas, the biggest problem is the accesses are very, very limited. And it is going to hamper the operational preparedness also of the country because of the tunnel which is there. And the local people are also going to be, at a lot of inconvenience.
Mr. Bali, I'm just trying to understand the extent of damage to roads and to bridges. We're potentially looking not at months but possibly years before all of this is repaired. Himachal Pradesh is in for a long period of great difficulty when it comes to infrastructure for transport.
So, because Vishnu, this is very important question that you've asked. Himachal Pradesh, if you see the terrain and geographically, where we are placed and how we are, it is quite a tough terrain. And as our senior person was speaking before me, he was telling you the right thing that, one has to have a proper program wherein, you have got, the infrastructure has its own problem. You've got roads and bridges which are built with 10 times the cost or maybe more than that. And still, the government is working day and night to, bridge that gap. Everybody is working together for that. The national government and the state government are day and night working together to bridge that gap. And we are quite accessible now to the places, but still being, cutting the mountain and going everywhere to different villages, it is still a problem. Yep. Because when you cut a mountain, after all, you are cutting a mountain and still the place, the mountain takes its own time to actually, the foundation.
No, it is a real crisis and yet nothing gets done about it. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us. I'm joined now by Satwant Atwal Trivedi, the officiating Director General of Police of Himachal Pradesh. Thank you very much for being with us. Could you give us an idea of how many roads are blocked at the moment and therefore how many lives are impacted, ma'am?
Well, the situation is a little worrisome, if I may say, to say the least, but everybody is on the ground, all boots on the ground, as I've been saying. All departments, be it the police, the PWD, the home guards, or the civil administration, everybody is working round the clock to ensure that people do not face too much difficulty. Yes, some areas have been cut off from rest of the country. Some areas do not have electricity. Some areas have lost mobile signals. But everybody is working round the clock to ensure that the loss of life and loss of property is reduced to bare minimum.
And how many people have lost their lives so far?
Yes, well, we have quite a few rivers that are flowing above the danger levels. Both Satluj and Beas are at the concerning levels. And the death toll has gone up to 22, sad to report that. But I must assure you that all tourists, wherever they are safe. They have been taken to shelter places. There is enough food for at least 3 days and medicines in plenty. They are all warmly clad and we're taking care of them. But might I add that their well-wishers and their families are trying to connect with them on mobile phones. But there is no mobile connectivity, especially in Kullu and Manali areas. So please look at our Twitter sites. We are assuring everybody there that everybody is safe and everybody is being taken care of. We've started a census in all the hotels and rest houses where tourists from other states are stranded, and we would be putting out the names and assuring their family members of the safety of their family members here with us in Himachal very soon.
No, so that's really important, and thanks, ma'am, for that effort. Lots of people would be really worried. So 22 people have lost their lives. Can you give us a rough timeline of how this progressed?
That is the death toll for the last 48 hours and a little more than that, please.
And ma'am, how many tourists remain stranded across the entire state at the moment, rough estimate?
I would say the numbers would be between 400 to 500. We are doing a census, but I will not be able to give you an affirmative on the exact number.
What about your advice to travellers, travellers planning to visit Himachal Pradesh in the near future? Should they stay away from the state for an indefinite period at this stage?
Yes, I would say please avoid for at least 2 to 3 days minimum. The rains are not letting up. We welcome every tourist to our Devabhoomi, but we would say please give us some time to set things right and welcome you back to our state. Those of you who are already in Himachal, please do take care not to go towards Mandi, Kullu and Manali. Lahaul Spiti and Kinnaur are also out of bounds, but rest of the state, everything is moving, though yes, there are a lot of landslides happening everywhere, and we're trying to keep the roads through and communication through, but yes, it would be better to stay indoors and enjoy your Netflix and snacks maybe.
All right, ma'am, thank you very much. You've got a very difficult job ahead of you, but it is great that an effort is being made to try and tell people across the country whose relatives are in Himachal Pradesh and who may not be on their cell phone at the moment that they are okay. I think a lot of people watching this program would be looking out for your Twitter feed where you try and link families outside the country with those who are stranded in Himachal Pradesh. I'm joined now by Jairam Thakur, former Chief Minister of Himachal Pradesh. Sir, what is the immediate situation that you've seen?
कि अभी तक की जो ताजा स्थिति है कि बारिश अभी भी लगातार हो रही है और जिसके कारण अभी भी ऐसा लग रहा है कि आने वाले समय में अभी तक स्थिति बहुत सामान्य जैसी नहीं लग रही है। बिल्कुल अलर्ट पे ही हमने सारा हिमाचल प्रदेश इस वक्त रखा हुआ है और पर्टिकुलरली कुल्लू और मंडी डिस्ट्रिक्ट, चंबा डिस्ट्रिक्ट और शिमला डिस्ट्रिक्ट में इम्पैक्ट, सिरमौर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में इम्पैक्ट इसका ज्यादा देखने को मिला है। तो वहाँ बिल्कुल अलर्ट पे रहने की आवश्यकता है क्योंकि बारिश लगातार हो रही है और बारिश के साथ साथ में हर जगह से खबर लगातार इस बात की आ रही है कि मकान गिर गया और पुल गिर गया, सड़क टूट गई। ये सारी खबरें अभी तक बिल्कुल सारी लगातार आई गई हैं। इस तरह से अभी तक की स्थिति यह है कि नुकसान बहुत ज्यादा हुआ है हिमाचल प्रदेश में, जिसको बहुत वक्त लगेगा।
So what about the loss of lives? What are you hearing?
लॉस ऑफ लाइफ जो नंबर है वो हमारा हिमाचल प्रदेश में जो ऑफिशियल जो बता रहे थे, मुझे 14 बता रहे थे, 14 लोगों का बता रहे थे, लेकिन अभी भी ये नंबर अभी तक जो है वो तो बिल्कुल जो अभी जानकारी के रूप में आया है, लेकिन बहुत सारे लोगों की मिसिंग होने की भी जो है वो खबरें आ रही हैं कि वो नहीं मिल रहे हैं, वो नहीं मिल रहे हैं। हो सकता है वो सुरक्षित भी हो, लेकिन अभी यही मान करके चलना पड़ेगा कि 14 नंबर तो ऑफिशियल जो है वो गवर्नमेंट की फिगर में रिफ्लेक्ट भी हो गया है।
And sir, one final question, the condition of bridges, transportation is so critical. Is that your big worry going forward?
ना, निश्चित रूप से इसमें एक बात को हम मान करके चलना पड़ेगा कि इतना बड़ा लॉस हिमाचल प्रदेश में कभी भी नहीं हुआ बरसात के मौसम में, और खासतौर से जो बहुत पुराने ब्रिजेस थे, अब जैसे यहाँ पंडोर डैम के पास एक ब्रिज था 100 years old, यानी कि 100 साल पुराना ब्रिज, वो भी ध्वस्त हो गया, वो भी चला गया ब्यास नदी में। और इसके अलावा बहुत सारे बड़े बड़े पुल बन करके जो तैयार हुए थे वो डैमेज हुए हैं, और बहुत सारे जो पुल कनेक्टिविटी के जो इम्पोर्टेंट थे, तो वो नंबर जो है ये लगभग, मुझे जो जानकारी मिल रही है तो लगभग ये 25 से ऊपर जा रहा है, 25 से ऊपर जा रहा है, छोटे बड़े पुलों को मिला करके अगर हम देखें तो करोड़ों रुपए का नुकसान उस दृष्टि से हुआ। दूसरा, बहुत सारी गवर्नमेंट बिल्डिंग्स डैमेज हुई हैं, और प्राइवेट बिल्डिंग का उसका तो नंबर ही नहीं है, उसके लिए अभी बहुत वक्त लगेगा सारा उसकी असेसमेंट के लिए।
It's a desperate situation over there. Hopefully this loss of life will be controlled. But sir, thank you very much for speaking to us and telling us about the situation. We're going to take a short break, turn our attention to something completely different. India has a very, very exciting mission to the moon coming up this Friday. Chandrayaan-3, what's it all about? We have a very special program with some wonderful guests. That's coming up next. Don't miss out. Well, You're watching Left, Right and Centre. ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organisation, is a centre of pride for India. Frugal, world-class engineering and brilliant dreams inspire countless citizens across our country. In fact, across the world. ISRO has grown and become technologically advanced over the years. A new generation of rockets, new satellites, and now new ambitions to land a rover on the surface of the moon. Chandrayaan-3, India's latest moon mission, blasts off this Friday. The goal is clear. Put an Indian lander down on the surface of the moon and then roll out an Indian rover. Now, just a handful of countries have been able to do this. Wouldn't it be fantastic if India could do this as well, particularly since Chandrayaan-2 didn't quite work out, falling short of its ultimate mission objectives just when it seemed that we would have a lander on the moon's surface. So that's what we are looking at in this very special program. Pallav Bagla with me in the studio. Pallav and I have tracked just about every major ISRO mission for the last decade or so.
Yes, lots of
Dr. Amitabh Ghosh, a leading NASA scientist, very much somebody who's tracked the entire NASA Martian program. Annapurni Subramaniam is at the Indian Institute of Astrophysics. She's the director there. And Dr. Madhavan Nair needs no introduction, former ISRO chief. Dr. Nair, are you excited about this visit? What does it mean for ISRO? What can it mean for India?
Well, as far as ISRO is concerned, it's going to be a major milestone and a stepping stone towards the future planetary exploration. Already ISRO has made some beginning in exploring the moon as well as the Mars, but actually having a rover and physical presence on the surface of the moon has been a dream for quite some time. And this is going to be the moment in which we are going to prove that.
Okay.
In fact, there was an attempt about 2 years back. Unfortunately, it didn't succeed fully. But now, again, the experiment is being repeated, by which our technological skill and excellence will be proven so that we can have our probes and robotics landing on the moon or Mars for the future exploration. So this is going to be a major advancement in terms of technology and also the scientific information which will be gathering about the planets from these missions.
Okay.
So that is very, very important milestone as far as ISRO is concerned,
Sure.
Especially after the last failure. Recovery from that is very important for ISRO.
Pallav, things broke last time. We fixed them. What was the problem and what have we fixed?
What was the problem is still a little bit of a question mark, but what has been fixed is that we have a lander which is more robust, the software is more robust, there is testing which has been done which is far more than what was done earlier. I said that when Chandrayaan-2 went up, that we sent up an under-tested machine, which is why it failed in off-nominal conditions. This time, the off-nominal conditions are where it has been designed for. So the Vikram lander is far more robust, both for software, navigation, and for landing. And remember, Vishnu, from Chandrayaan-2's Vikram failure, we have some very high-quality images of the same area where we are going to land again.
Right.
So it's the same area, and we've literally mapped the terrain to 30 centimeter resolution. So we know literally every boulder, every crater. And now there is more fuel on Vikram, so that if it doesn't go to the right place or it encounters a boulder or something, it can go on to another location.
And Pragyan is the rover, right?
And see, there is the Vikram is the lander. In the belly of Vikram is the Pragyan rover. And once the lander does its job perfectly, then the rover comes out, and then we will see selfies from Pragyan to Vikram and Vikram to Pragyan. So the Indian flag on the moon and selfies coming for the first time from the lunar surface is what I would be looking forward to.
Annapurni Subramaniam, from a scientific standpoint, Chandrayaan-1 did brilliantly. It was an Indian mission. The detection of water molecules underneath the surface of the moon or in the moon's atmosphere as well, as I understand it. What is it that Chandrayaan-3 seeks to do now, from a scientific standpoint?
Yeah, so far we understand the equatorial region of the moon. We do not understand much from the southern part of the moon as such. And we expect that the southern part is could be quite different from what we have seen so far. And we have seen that the southern polar region has more water. And then what happens when you are in the, sunlit area as well as the, where the sunlight is not falling. And one thing we should also remember is that we are looking at a place where there is hardly any air, and, there is hardly, there is no gravity as such. So when you have this less air, then the conductance of the temperature, when you say that one side is sunlit, then how much the temperature transfers to the other region, we have no idea. So the conductivity based on the regolith conductivity as well as the air conductivity, we have no idea. So the temperature probe will tell you that how exactly is the thermal conductivity over there. And of course, when we have to go there and take things, then the how safe it is, how stable it is with respect to earthquakes, not earthquakes, the moonquakes. So we need to figure out how stable things are. So those things are actually studied over there in this particular mission. So these two are the major experiments, and also the probes which will dip inside the surface will tell you the elemental abundances with respect to various minerals.
Dr. Ghosh, simple question, maybe a tough answer. Why is it so difficult to land a lander and a rover and to get a rover onto the surface of the moon? Why?
So I'll answer this, and there's something else I wanted to mention. Why is it important? So because you're slowing something down from very high velocity to just under maybe 10 miles or even lower. Otherwise, if you hit something at slow down to 100 miles an hour, it's still going to be destroyed. So there is no 99% success. It is 99% success equates to failure. So one quick thing I wanted to mention, that we are in a very different scenario with the second set of human landings on the moon, and then the talk of the lunar base. So it's a very critical time for India to build this capability to land softly on the moon. So it's a very different from Apollo, where people were trying to go to the moon for the first time. Now they're thinking of going there to stay. There are private missions being attempted. So it's a very interesting scenario that multiple countries will try to go back, and so it's very critical that Chandrayaan 3 is successful.
Dr. Madhavan Nair, we don't have a rocket powerful enough to go to the moon directly, so we use some smart mathematics and computations to slingshot the vehicle using Earth's gravity in the direction of the moon, right? How does that work?
Well, it's actually, we have been exploring what is the best way of reaching to the moon. And in fact, in the Chandrayaan 1 mission itself, we have perfected that technology. Initially, we used a huge rocket to take the spacecraft into a highly elliptical orbit around the Earth. And from there, we tried to raise the orbit step by step using the propulsion system on board the satellite. This, of course, what we are doing is because there is the influence from the other planets and the sun, etc., become predominant, and we don't have any first-hand knowledge of that. Several missions in the past have failed mainly because of the wrong mission planning and the trajectories. So we try to calibrate this trajectory using this step-by-step process and ultimately arrive near the moon. Actually, the final shot, you give a velocity sufficient to escape from the gravitational field of Earth, and it will be having a free travel through the outer space. From there, whether it goes to the moon or Mars, it is only the question of pointing the velocity vector in the required direction. And later, the most critical event is to capture the spacecraft around a particular planet. For example, moon, when it reaches around 500 kilometers away from the lunar distance, the rocket engines are fired in the reverse direction. The velocity is brought down sufficiently low so that the gravitational pull of the moon itself will be able to take the spacecraft into its orbit. This orbital maneuver is okay. But at the same time, the landing process is extremely difficult. In the Earth-related thing, human landings, what you are planning for the future, the spacecraft recovery we have planned in the past, you break the orbit and enter the atmosphere. The atmospheric drag parameters are made use of to reduce the velocity and ultimately have a soft landing. Whereas moon, it is not possible. because there is no atmosphere. And also the gravitational field around the moon is not well understood. So we had to have a very cautious approach of detaching this rover from the mother craft and later descending it gradually. In the last mission, what happened was everything went perfectly well until about 2 kilometers above the surface of the moon. At the time, this platform was supposed to be virtually suspended by the rocket motors and slowly brought down onto the surface. But unfortunately, something went wrong, either algorithm or in the hardware, and that is what resulted in the crash. Now, ISRO has done a lot of studies on this, a lot of simulations on this, and now, of course, we hope that this type of event will not take place. But ISRO always has been cautious in having a large number of simulations of the failure modes and also the possible scenario one can encounter in these things. But still, we have to keep our fingers crossed because we don't know the moon that much. You know, the first lunar mission has failed mainly because of the large temperature gradient from the lunar surface, which we never expected. From the Earth, it looks so cool. Here again, the gravitational anomalies which exist because of the mounds and the craters, that is unknown. So in the unknown territory, without any guidance, any landing instrumentation, we are going there.
Okay.
The onboard instruments, cameras, and the laser ranging system, etc., has to guide itself to have the soft landing. So that's going to be a complex process.
Okay. Pallav, what will the rover do and how long will the rover last?
Well, let me add one thing which I forgot to add in the first. One big change which has happened in Vikram is in Chandrayaan-2, Vikram had 5 engines. Vikram lander had 5 engines, 4 on the corner, 1 in the center. Now that 5th engine was introduced into the program very late and enough testing was not done. This time that 5th engine has been removed. So this time the landing is being attempted with there will be 4 engines, but the last landing will be done by firing 2 engines. So that gives them an opportunity to understand how the 4 engines are doing. But ultimately, proof of the pudding is having a soft landing on the lunar surface in the same area which is close to where moon impact probe of Chandrayaan-1 landed, where Vikram failed in Chandrayaan-2, and now Chandrayaan-3 is attempting in the same area. Now, when the Pragyan rover goes on to the surface, one of the first things it will do as it goes down the ramp is take images of the Vikram lander. Ultimately, it will go around the Vikram, the lander, all around like a 360 degrees, and it will also do in situ testing. So the lander and the rover are carrying the same set of experiments which were carried in Chandrayaan-2. No difference in that. There is an extra instrument which is there on the propulsion module, which is to look at what are the signatures of life as you see of Earth from the moon. So later, if you want to look at exoplanets for life, then that is what signatures you have to look for. And there is also a laser instrument from NASA, which is a small passive instrument. But essentially, the science is what we couldn't attempt earlier. But the Vikram lander is also, there are several velocity instruments which have been added. Doppler instrument has been added to make sure that you get the right estimates. And most importantly, how it would perform when the conditions are not normal or nominal.
Right.
That is the critical part which was left out during the Chandrayaan-2, and it was very unfortunate that the mission was hurried through by ISRO at that time. It could have gone off well till the last minute, who knows.
Annapurni Subramaniam, we don't talk enough about what Chandrayaan-1 achieved, but detecting particles of water, it's a huge scientific achievement. Could you tell us what Chandrayaan, and in other words, our own engineers, scientists, our own mission was able to achieve on that occasion?
Yeah, so we had M3, which is basically NASA's payload on the Chandrayaan-1. Apart from that, we also had this Moon Impact Probe, MIP, which actually was released about, I think about 100 kilometers or so, and it crash landed on that. And we had several experiments which actually gathered, the data asset descended down. So this detected, hydroxyl or presence of water along with that, M3 also announced the presence of water from there, but they could not see whether it is actually a hydroxyl, which is like the, mineralogy from there. It is coming from the OH molecules or the H2O kind of a thing. But then that basically kick-started the entire thing in that direction, that previously there was a negation. There was no evidence of not even OH anywhere. But now it's completely changed. And then people started looking for more and more evidences. And then recently, Sophia, the near-infrared, which flies on the instrument which flies on the aircraft, which has detected, mapped, and then found that the polar regions can have much more water. And we know that the South Pole can have, even the sunlit as well as the shaded areas can have water. And the next things to how much water it is, how much can we extract, and the talcum powder, like the particles which are there in the moon, how do you separate it out? So all these kind of huge amount of questions. And of course, whatever exosphere the moon has, several elements over there, and we need to know the content exactly, what it is, how much it is, and that is what these instruments are going to measure. So these are very important steps, baby steps, but important steps to move forward to understand what is out there.
Dr. Ghosh, if there is a significant find of water which can be extracted, what will that mean?
See, that changes everything. See, if you think of what, when America was discovered, human explorers set out. But the successful, settlement of humans would not have happened if there was no in situ resources. We call it in situ resources, as in you could cultivate the land, you could be self-sufficient. You cannot just keep on carrying things from Europe to America. So that is the analogy. Here, if you imagine, if you're going to the moon, logistically it is not difficult at all. It takes you to go, say, 24 hours to go to the US. This is probably, if you have a strong enough rocket, to 72 hours. But you need to be self-sufficient. You need water for the return journey, the fuel for the return journey. You need water for use by humans. You need water for manufacturing oxygen. It's such a huge deal. And this is going to be super important, because now the goal is, like Blue Origins is exploring, trying to set up a lunar base. So all this does not happen if you have to somehow carry this water from Earth. It is going to be super expensive. So I think we are in a very different mode. This is not exploration. This is kind of, we are trying to test technologies that will make the moon a permanent base, just like Antarctica. And, the first step, for example, on Mars has already happened. There's an instrument on Perseverance which has manufactured oxygen on Mars. So these steps will happen, and the Artemis program will start rolling in a year or two, and then, it will be a very different mode of exploration internationally.
Okay. Pallav, what is ISRO's next step, assuming this mission is successful?
First step, have a good launch on Friday.
2:35 p.m., right?
2:35 p.m. Send the Chandrayaan 2 propulsion module, Vikram lander, Pragyan rover into the Earth orbit, send it to the translunar orbit, get it captured on the moon, have a safe landing, and that's big deal. And finally, we would have imprint of India on the moon,
so how
not
is that
just
going
the
to
moon.
Work? How will there be a flag? I mean, there would be
There is a flag which has been imprinted on the rover and also on Vikram lander. And there are cameras which will take images on both sides. And as the rover goes around the Vikram lander in the 360 mode, because the sun is on one side, you will get images of all of that. Now, beyond that, Chandrayaan 3 is one mission. India also has plans to revisit Mars as a mission to Venus. But very soon in August, we have a mission coming up to study the sun, Aditya L1 mission. First time we are sending a mission to study the sun, essentially to protect our own satellites, to understand why the sun gets angry, and when it gets angry, what sort of damage it can do on Earth.
So you forgot to mention the really big one.
That's still further away,
which is Gaganyaan, of course.
Gaganyaan is still further away. Aditya is coming in August. Gaganyaan is to send an Indian astronaut into space from Sriharikota. But before that, we may see an astronaut going to the International Space Station alongside with NASA, the help of NASA. So there are amazingly important missions, both for scientific purposes, for geopolitical reasons and to send an Indian into space. That's really a big deal. It's the single most expensive scientific experiment India has ever done, costing almost about 9,000 to 10,000 crores. It's a big deal. Gaganyaan is a really big deal. But before that, we will have an astronaut going to the International Space Station. Modi and Biden have both agreed to get that done.
Dr. Nair, final question to you. China has managed to get a rover onto the surface of the moon. America has, Russia has. And so then have the Europeans managed, or would we be next?
Well, Europeans have not done it directly, but they have had a ride with the NASA spacecraft, some of the instruments going onto this one. So we have a unique position as far as the landing there is concerned. And mind you, all these are homegrown technology. That's what we should be proud of. It is not that we have borrowed or got technology from outside. Sending a person in the SpaceX or something is not going to be the challenge. But the Gaganyaan, for example, is going to bring a lot of new technologies to the country, not only in the space technology, but on the human physiology and behavior in the zero-G conditions and vacuum conditions and so on. And this all will be providing an impetus to our planetary explorations for our future. Of course, it will have two components. One will have a robotic exploration, other will be the human presence. For both, India will get prepared, and we are on the right track as far as this is concerned.
It does, of course, mean that we are going to have to commit a great deal more to our budgets. It is only so much that ISRO can do with their frugal engineering and inexpensive space travel. Ultimately, if you want to be in the big game, then you need to roll out the big money as well. Smartly, but you still do. And that's something which perhaps needs to be looked at in the future. Look, we're going to be back tracking a lot of this, and it's going to be so exciting. One final word for our viewers. It's going to take some time for Chandrayaan to actually reach the orbit of the moon. So what, the 26th of August?
Let it go up first. Let's count our chickens.
I'm assuming
23rd of August is when it's targeted. So it has to land during the lunar day, which is 14 days of sunlight.
23rd, 24th.
The 23rd, right now, let's assume when it goes. Let's not count our chickens before they are hatched.
No. Let's hope now. We were so close, Pallav and I. We had to, through the night we watched the last one. This had better work. 23rd.
It will work this time.
23rd or so of August is when we're going to be back in the studio, analyzing all of it. Thank you very much for being with us. Good night.